Okay, Wayne D here again, and I had a request from one of my YouTube watchers to do a bit of young Nicklaus analysis. So there was a great special on this year, early in the year. It was Nicklaus and Snead at Pebble Beach in a match. So great shots of young Jack. I think this is 1963. So if we watch the driver swing, this is a nice camera angle, and the camera didn't move around, so we really get a good shot of Nicklaus. Only problem with these swings back in the day is that there's no shutter speed on the camera, so we can't quite see exactly what's going on as the hands blur into impact. But a couple things are really noticeable here. One would be the turned out feet. The left foot was turned way out, the right foot a significant amount, and in the backswing, as he starts back, you'll see the head lower immediately. Now the interesting thing about Nicklaus is, as he ground himself down and extended the club, notice that, you know, pretty much historically he didn't cock his wrists very quickly, but he's gonna come up out of all of this downwardness and lift his left heel way up here as he gets, so he's up to full height. Now most people, in my experience when I teach, would have no chance to recover from this position. He's got his hands up behind his head, his hips are rotated massively, his knees have rotated, his heel is probably 2 or 3 inches up off the ground. But you know, the genius of this was that if you could do it, it produced a heck of a lot of power. So as he comes forward, he plants that left foot, and when he plants it, the heel is actually forward now of where it was, so the foot is not nearly as turned out. But look at the amount of lateral push there, just a huge amount of push. You'd see Hogan doing more or less the same thing, maybe even more than that. If we had the thing where you could slow it down nicely, that you could see the shaft bend. Now also notice that his head is right back, staying in that box. Might jog a little forward with the forward push. Comes down a little bit and then backs up just a hair at impact as he, watch the snap of this left leg as he finishes. So just a brutal, just killed it. So when we look at him from the back view, you'll see some of the interesting things in his swing. I just did another a swing analysis of Camilo Villegas, and you'll see some interesting parallels there, one of which would be the steepness of the shaft on the backswing. So Nicklaus pulled the club inward. Now the camera's too high here, it's like up above his head, but still it's nice and steady so we can see. There's the lowering. Now as the left arm gets parallel to the ground, if we look at the shaft, again, pretty vertical here, and that usually leads to something that's going to get up and across the line. So the plane here would be, on this club, would be over there. Do that again. So you can see it, that's way across. So this club has to tip back and get itself back on plane, but with the right arm high and bent like this, there's no way that arm's going to straighten out in time, so the hands are going to have to come in pretty high relative to where they started. So the hands started here and the shaft was there, and then when we take it up and bring it back down, you see the hands come in. Here's the right arm now angling out this way. He uses the left hand to bow the club down, and as normal with this type of action, the head will have a slight amount of pullback in it. So you see a lot of that in Camilo's swing. Plus Nicklaus, with his irons, never took a huge backswing because his arm was so hard against his chest, and he was a thick guy. You know, his swing always looked a little short with the iron shots. Now, if we go to a swing from an angled view, there's a couple things you can see here. You probably heard that Nicklaus tried to swing from the insides of his feet, but as you look at his left foot, you can definitely see with all that forward drive, his foot leans over. And here's another one where you can see that left foot roll to the outside. So I usually encourage that in a swing to get that forward drive enough to get to the outside of that left foot. So you can see the tremendous push of the waist through the ball and then the elevation up into the ball, into that finish. Now, he was accused of having a reverse C finish, but you can see here, this line is fairly straight, and most of the good players have their heads behind the belt buckle at impact. Look how straight that left leg got, though. I mean, that thing really snapped back. So who else does that? Well, you can see Tiger do that big time. So as Nicklaus starts, his left foot's way turned out. It goes way up in the air. The heel replants forward, and then he leans into that foot as he's hitting the ball. Now, as an interesting sidelight here, if we look at, this is something that I think made Jack great, and this is how the best players tend to deal with a high shaft position on the forward swing. So he would take it back, get it way crossed, come in, the right arm is too bent to get the hands to come in low, like say a Sergio or a VJ. But if you watch, this would be his now, what I would call his hitting plane from up there, and now watch how the shaft rides that particular plane, especially if I draw it correctly, which would be here. So watch how the shaft comes along that plane. So the club has almost perfect arc through the ball. It just comes from up here as opposed to down here. Now, I've talked about the benefit of bringing the hands back to the original setup position to hit the ball, because it makes the arm and wrist release simpler, because you don't have to lower the club while you're bringing it around. But obviously you don't have to do that, because you can just see it here. A lot of good players come in with the arm high. I would just choose to teach that you would get the forearm down on the plane and the hands would approach from a lower position. And most of the time when that happens, when the club is way up there, the thing that you'll see is a little bit of pullback in the head as you hit it, and the legs tend to come a little bit under. But anyway, obviously the greatest player ever, and watching his swing function. Now, this was later on when he fixed the swing a little bit. At least he thought he fixed it. He just took it a little straighter back. He didn't pull it inside as much, but that only got it steeper and more crossed and coming in a little higher. So the essential movements were the same, but he forced himself to back it up a little bit more when he got a little older. So anyway, a little bit of Nicklaus for you, and I'll see you again.